afternoon, good day, wherever you are. This is the Immigrant Experience Show with Moji Taiwo. And I'm also the author of I Give Because I'm Blessed Because I Give, a chronicle of an immigrant's journey. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. But before we start, we'd like to acknowledge our new member, Mr. Austin Omobude, for supporting this program. We really appreciate your support. On today's show, we have with us a very, very dear person to me by the name of Adejoké Taiwo. But before I tell you more about Adejoké, I would like to share with you the tidbit of today. According to Statistics Canada, current figures from 2016 shows that 37.5% of total population of children born in Canada are of immigrant parentage, compared to 34% reported in 2011. Now we focus on our guest. Our special guest today on the Immigrant Experience Show, as I said, is Adejoké Taiwo. Adejoké Taiwo, as you may guess, and guess rightly so, is my daughter, because my name is Moji Taiwo. So Adejoké Taiwo is my daughter. Adejoké Taiwo is a design professional, and she has been a design professional for 15 years within the fashion, theater, and film industries. Adejoké is passionate about design, creating, and telling beautiful stories through imagery. She says her strength lies in concept, conception, and execution. She is an entrepreneur who has owned and operated a design business since 2008. Adejoké's creative and artistic talent has been recognized as follows. She's received Distinguished Artist Award from Red Deer College in 2002, Project Runway Canada Season 2 finalist in 2009, 3 times Ampere Fashion for Best Costume Design Awards, or nominated, right? Mm-hmm. She has been nominated 3 times by the Ampere. She's a finalist for Best Costume Design in 2020 and 2021. And she's also a CAF Card Wants to Watch nominee in 2021. What is CAF Card again?
Oh, now you know me.
That is Canadian Arts in Film and Television Arts of Canada, something like that.
Oh, I can't. You put me
It's
on the
okay.
spot. Yeah,
it's
long.
okay. I got it. I got that. So some of the projects that Adejoké has worked on as a costume designer has been Tribal Season 1 and 2 for APTN television, First Christmas with Hallmark, Winter in Vale by Hallmark, Liberty, which is an independent production, Chat Pilot, Ride or Die Pilot for Pop TV, Island Season 1 for Netflix, Teen Star Season 1 Episode 6 for Amazon and Sky Kudos, and Teen Star Season 2 with Amazon. Wow, those are the shows that you've been on as a costume designer. But we also have a few other shows that you were the assistant costume designer on. Other Range, The Detour Season. Outer Range. Yeah. Okay. The Detour Season 3, Fargo Season 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Hell on Wheels, Season 3 and 4. Heartland. Most people who are in Alberta will know about Heartland, Season 5 and 6 on CBC. Horses of McBride on CTV. Hiding, and Love Me. You were also on Pet Heroes and recently on Skulls.
Yes, skulls.
Skulls. So, Adejoké, I know that I didn't get everything that you're doing. There are a few projects that you are working on right now. Can you tell us just a little bit without giving too much out?
So I took a little bit of time off just to regroup. As you can see, I've been pretty busy. But this January, I've started working on 3 new projects. The one I'm currently on is based on 2 local artists from Calgary, and their upbringing here in Calgary,
In Calgary.
as artists. So
Okay.
it kind of resonates with me. So I'm working on that for a bit, and then I'm moving on to my own project as the costume designer, and it's called. I don't know if I can say, but
Well, don't say it, but you can
won't
just
say.
give us just a little background.
but it's a wholesome show that's going to be for everybody, for families, and it'll be airing on Netflix probably next year. So yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds good. As you can tell, Adejoké is busy and has been busy. But let's get into the question. I know that you are my daughter, so I probably know a lot about you, but I'm also hoping to learn something that I didn't know about you during the course of this interview.
Okay.
As a second generation Canadian, you were born and raised in Canada. You were born and raised in Alberta. Growing up as an immigrant child who is faced with home culture and community, your birthplace culture, what are some of the things that you face as the most challenging that, other kids in your situation might be facing now?
I'd say the most challenging, like it was a little bit different for us because you and Dad are more accepting and more encouraging of like whatever we have skills or passions for. But just as a community, sometimes you face the judgment from your peers in your community or your aunts and uncles, and there's a stereotype, there's like a block that you're supposed to kind of be fitting in and a path you're supposed to follow, whether it's to become an accountant or a teacher or an engineer or a doctor. And so that sort of thing, like outside people kind of looking in and putting their opinions on you can be a challenge, and it can also steer people into not doing like what they want to do in their lives, so creatively or professionally or whatever.
So that's from the inside culture, meaning our African, our Nigerian culture or community. What are some of the challenges that you can remember as a kid growing up in Canadian society that you face?
For me, I find things are really different here now in Calgary, but when I was growing up, like I was the one black girl in the school. There was one black boy, one black girl. And so often you're kind of just like brushed to the side. You're kind of like made a statistic before you even are one. And there's so many assumptions of what type of family you come from. Like the teachers, they don't know. So you're kind of always just kind of brushed to the side and not really recognized for like the gifts that you do have. So that, I'd say looking back, like that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
All right. There's, of course, even with all of those challenges, there's always one person, one teacher that, encourages. Do you have any one of those?
Oh yeah, I'd say so. Like sometimes I still think of some of the teachers. Like in grade 2, I had a teacher named Mrs. Browning. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, I
mom.
remember
Yeah.
Mrs. Browning.
Yeah, and I ended up running into her years later after, because we grew up in the southeast end of the city, which was like not too well off to do, and then moved to the north, and we ran into her, and I ended up babysitting her kids. But she was my science teacher, and I always liked science. I was bad at math, but I think it's because it was more of an organic thing and still creative, but she always like recognized in me like the things that I was capable of. And so her I always remember. And then in my junior high, luckily we had tons and tons of sewing classes, like so many. So I basically took every single one. And we had teacher, Mrs. Scott, who also encouraged me and just thought, yeah, just do it. Like, go for it. Take as many as you want. Take as many classes as you want. So I always remember her. And then in my high school, it was my art teacher, Mrs. Smith. And she really like fostered a group of students, and we were all kind of like the artsy outcasts a little bit, but she just encouraged like everything creative within us. And in fact, there was an abandoned dark room in our high school, and in her own spare time, she like rebooted it and taught us how to take pictures on manual cameras, and we had a photography club, and we developed our own pictures. And she was also great. And even after high school and college and university, in fact, like, she had been emailing me just saying, oh, I don't know if you remember me, but like,
especially when you were on Project Runway Canada.
Yeah. So it's nice to like those people that recognize those skills within you and like don't just brush you aside and are there to support you and encourage you. Like they come back, they remember you, and they did make a difference in my life. So.
Excellent. So now that we've gotten, that childhood story out of the way, you did mention that you started your creative journey very early. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us, before you even got into elementary, junior, high school, mm-hmm. how did you start your creativity, your creative journey?
Well, I've been thinking about this over the last few days because I know what I did when I was like 5 or 6 years old, how I found a needle and thread and I wanted to know how to use it. And so Dad showed me how to like thread the needle and like do some hand stitching. But looking back, like, you're pretty creative too, Mom, right? With all the things that you would do in the house and all the macrame and cross stitching and making your own outfits and like styling your own things with not much at hand.
Not being afraid to look different.
Yeah, exactly. Like always being an individual. So needless to say though, you guys always encouraged me. So I started taking sewing lessons when I was 6 from a colleague of yours. From the center, and she would teach me at her house.
Yes.
A few hours every single day. And then on my spare time at home as a child, I would cut up my doll's clothes and like recreate them. I was always into something, whether it was like cutting up something or painting something. Yeah. It was always something.
Painting, photography.
I loved hair, so like learning how to
braiding
hair like since I was 6, like just learning like anything that I could get my hands on. I just loved doing. And you guys encouraged that. I have the same sewing machine that you guys got me when I was 7.
Oh, really? You still have that?
Yes, I still have it, and it's like no one's allowed to touch it. So,
yeah.
And I remember when I was like, if I was misbehaving, most kids are punished by like, go to your room. Mine's like, you're gonna take my sewing machine away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of like really got the itch and the bug, and then from there it just continued. I ended up going to so-and-so sewing school, and it was a sewing school in this. I can't remember the teacher's name, but in the basement in her house in Kensington.
In Kensington, yes.
Yeah, the ceiling was probably like just as tall as me. And so I went there for a few years, and I did all the modules, completed all that, and then by then I was going to junior high and was able to take whatever they had in the schools. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, as a costume designer, what does it take? What does a costume designer do?
So the job sounds super glamorous, and sometimes it can be, but basically, depending on the production, every production, you're in charge of the costumes and the clothing, the styling of the show, of the clothes. Mm-hmm. That's your main responsibility, and fulfilling the vision that the producers have or the directors have, and collaborating with all of the departments to make sure it's a cohesive vision. And then that's your main job. But on top of that, you're in charge of managing a crew of people, because you can't do it yourself. That's impossible. On smaller shows, maybe you have a skeleton crew of like 5 people, but like that's the minimum amount of people you'd be managing. So you're managing people, you're managing budget, because you're in charge of a lot of money.
Because you're the head of that department.
Yeah, you're the head of that department. And so ultimately, like, you're accountable and you're responsible for that. There's, in bigger shows, there's other positions you would hire, like a supervisor that tracks that. But ultimately, like, as the designer, you're responsible for that. Next thing is deadlines. Things got to get done. We work like 10 to 12 hour shifts. That's a regular. And then once we're shooting, we're working sometimes 14, 16 hours. And people say, oh, aren't those long hours? Like, do you need that much time to get the job done? And you actually do. And so getting everything complete, you're in charge of that. Those deadlines, that's one of your biggest responsibilities as well. So, yeah. And a lot of paperwork.
A lot of paperwork. So creativity and a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
What kind of training is required to be a costume designer?
Well, like I was
Well,
saying,
you are also a fashion designer.
Yes,
You also design hair and all of that. But
Yeah.
as a costume designer, what kind of formal
Yeah.
training do you need?
Well, like I was saying, like looking at designers around the world and famous fashion designers and whoever, a lot of people have a creative bone in their body, and they may not have gone to school for specifically costume design or fashion design, and they kind of can fall into those positions because they excel, they see things a different way. So sometimes that happens for some people.
But most people went to school?
Yeah, most people went to school, but even like the people that have gone to school, some of them went for art history, and they become a costume
So
designer.
what is your school background?
So my school background, I went to school for theater, for costumes and theater specifically, and then I always dreamed of being a fashion designer still. So I went to university for design, for Bachelor of Design in fashion design. And so, but even with the education, a lot of things are you're learning in the position.
As well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, as a second generation Canadian, and what message or what do you have, if you have anything to say to young people of immigrant parents who are interested in other careers other than being a doctor and a lawyer? What would you say to first to the kids and then to the parents?
First to the kids, like, I know it's hard. I always say, oh, try to talk to someone in the industry, but I know that's very hard because I've had people reach out to me and I've just been so busy and I haven't been able to talk to them and give them advice. But I'd say that's the first step, and then see what education is out there, because I know immigrants always like a good piece of paper, a good certificate, so that's always good. And then try and do like a work study. If you're in high school, if there's any kind of like job placements, or you can get a credit just to do like training, a work study, to see if you even like it. Is it what you thought it was before investing all of your time in it
And money.
And then and also, like, if you don't do it, you have nothing to lose, right?
At
if
least
you don't
you try.
That's what you always say.
See,
So,
I'm glad you listen to
yeah.
some of the things I say. Try.
if you try,
Yeah.
there's nothing to lose. It's not like if you don't try, you're going to lose something. So there's that. And then also with the parents, don't be so closed-minded. There's so many careers out there, whether it's in marketing, photography, tech, IT, like, there's so many things are diverse and broad. So
Even in films, I learned from you that there is positions for graphic designers.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things. So within companies, there's, especially now with the advent of social media, there's so many positions, there's so many like creative positions that you can have within a company. So for example, if I decided I don't want to work in film anymore, I don't want to be a costume designer, I still have skills that I can take to like another company, whether it's in like the tech sector or the medical field or something. There's always something. So
And in your field specifically, in Canada, there is a limited amount of visible minority immigrant people in the field.
yeah.
What would you say to people to invite them to explore the area?
I don't know. I feel like if you have an interest in it, you should just go for it. I don't think you should judge whoever is in that field, like whatever you see, as like your marker as whether to enter or not.
So you should just follow your passion.
Exactly.
At least give it a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
YOLO.
Yeah. Yeah.
You only live once.
You
so,
only live
yeah,
once. Give it
go
a
for
shot.
it,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So, is there anything else you want to contribute to this interview that we have not touched base?
No, I think just if you have a creative bone, even if you don't want to make it a career, you don't want to make a hustle out of it, you should do what you like.
Okay.
No matter what.
No matter what. Thank you very much. That's it for us. We're wrapping up. Thank you, Adejoké Taiwo, for being our guest. We appreciate you, and we want to thank those of you who are watching us. We hope that you've learned some things from this. But before we wrap it completely, is there any of this that holds vivid memories to you?
Yeah, so some of these photos are just a flashback of before I was in film. So just like a lot of these things were like more of like work experience, like internships and things like that. But this is a spread from Project Runway, which I was a contestant on, so I'll always remember that. This is one of my first stage jobs at the Grandstand show. When I was in Toronto, I also worked volunteering at Fashion Week, which is a good experience. And this is my my ID tag for when I worked on cruise ships, because also there's costumes on there.
Yes,
so
you did work on a cruise ship.
Norwegian Cruise Lines. Mm-hmm. And then these are some of the first costumes I had ever made in college. So long time ago. And this is my first sewing machine, but I was probably around 12 in that photo with my 6-year-old machine. This is at the Banff Center as well, where I did 3 sessions of a work study there. This is in a wardrobe somewhere. And then this is also a good memory when I used to work backstage at the theaters. So yeah, and then just some of the pieces that I've made for family.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We hope those of you who are watching us enjoy this episode as much as I have interviewing my own daughter. This is the end of our show this time. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and become a member of the Immigrant Experience Show. I am your host, Moji Taiwo. Thank you.